Okay, so I just finished watching a K drama. I like those K dramas. I've only watched 3 series so far, and the first one was happy all the way through. I looked forward to watching it, and it kept me in a good mood, positive outlook. That was nice. The second one I watched was really good because it had like a love story in it. Unfortunately, it ended kind of sad, like really sad actually. I'm not sure if this is like a thing with the K dramas. You know how like there's always like something that goes wrong? It makes me wonder if the something that goes wrong in these K dramas is always going to be like this illness, that tears the love away forever. So the second one was good, but I wasn't too happy about the ending. It really just broke my heart. It made me sad, but whatever. But this one that I just watched, same kind of like love, like the feel of the love. It's not like, oh, I like you and we start like dating. It's like this, like there's feelings, but they're suppressed, but they're there and you can feel it. And I don't know, I just really like the way that these K dramas, portray their love stories. But this one, okay, like the end wasn't bad. I was already looking forward to it being sad and not the way I wanted it to end. But this one didn't end too bad. The first 19 episodes were excellent. I was super into it. And then episode 19, I know, is when it took a turn. And then from like 19 to 25, I wasn't really feeling the show because the two people, they weren't really on the best terms, due to some misunderstandings and, a lack of explanation from one side due to like them having literal issues, and they didn't want to maybe burden the other person with them, but it's always kept a secret. And then it's known by the main one of the main characters by somebody else who's close to the other main character. They explained what happened, at the part where they stopped talking, and it really just made the person feel better because they had this whole different story in their head because that's what it looked like, but little did they know what really happened. So they start their love again, but the remainder of the show from 25 to 40 was 90% focused on the business aspect of it, which was basically the whole show. They were business people, which was cool. I was happy to see them get back together because they always had that love for each other, but it was nice to like squash what was in the middle and let them continue to progress. I really, really liked that aspect of it. But the whole time, the one character has this issue, and he thinks that I found out at the end that the whole time they think that the other person has no idea. They didn't want them to know about it. I forget how, but at the end, somebody lets him know that she did know about it, and she was doing everything she could to try to get the resources to help. But it turns out that they weren't able to help the person. So it ends like you don't get to see the one character pass on, so that was cool because you don't want that to happen the whole time. You don't even want it to get to that point, but towards the end they also made it seem like it could be possible that they get what they need, but the person is a little bit too majestic in their acts, and they would rather have their lifelong goal accomplished rather than trade this goal for something that they need. I know it's a show. I personally feel like, I mean, you don't know if it's even true. But then, secondly, even if it does relinquish your goal for a second, you can just do what you need to do and then jump back on that and get that done. And you don't have to make the other person sad and you don't have to be sad because you'll be able to be with them forever. But it ended, I guess better. It ended with the one character being like, it was just a scene of them walking and there were some words, and they were like, oh, I fulfilled, I traveled the world and I get emotional. I traveled the world and stuff over the next so many years and whatever. But it didn't show the other person like go. But that they just, it wasn't clear, at the end you saw them riding and you could tell, like, okay, that's them, there was somebody riding kind of close, but I don't think it was him because I feel like they would have been riding together just like they did in the beginning. But so I read up on Google and it said like, oh, that they went the rest of their lives, devoted to this person. You don't really know. That's what it looks like, and that's beautiful, but it's kind of sad because it would have been much nicer to go the rest of your life with that person instead of like just having a memory of them and only having the tiniest bit of time together. But I don't know. I was like, I really need to get into like ones that have happier endings. I know it's a story. I don't know. If I could rewrite it, I would like end it better, It was beautiful, but it was also kind of tragic. But it was beautiful, their time together. But yeah, the story of Pearl Girl. Very nice. I'm watching something else now. If I feel deeply about it, I will more than likely report back on that one. But that was good, and the guy was super hot, and I fucking love that shit, and I wish that they could have fucking wrote it out forever. Like, that shit would have been hot. There's something about these K-dramas, like, there's a couple scenes, sometimes it's not all about love, but the times when the love is shown, this shit's kind of hot, but whatever. But I just wish that they could have wrote it out forever, like, because they deserved it, and it would have been very beautiful. But that's it. Okay.